The story of the 10 men with the skin disease, or the 10 lepers, is a popular one in my family. It holds a special place because it's one of those stories that you come across in Sunday school. And right now in our children's chapel, they are reading through this story. But it's popular in my family because it's a Sunday school story that I put my own interpretive twist on. The healing of the 10 lepers has many points of entry. It's about giving thanks and about gratitude. Duh, that's why we read it on Thanksgiving. But like all stories in the Gospels, it has many layers. It's also a healing story, a story about how Jesus sees, hears, receives, and sends these 10 men to the priests to be healed. It's also a discipleship story. Healing is not a spectator sport in the gospel. These men are co-participants. They seek healing, calling Jesus by name, calling him master, approaching him with a faithful and expectant posture, as if they could sense that Jesus, who they do not know, can actually do something for them. Our story is also an outsider story, a story of a foreigner, a Samaritan who turns back, a story that makes us expand our horizons of who is worthy of God's healing power and who is worthy to offer praise to God. Perhaps the simplest way to think of our gospel today is to see it as a story of reversal. It is a story about when a person or a group of people meet Jesus, and because of an encounter with him, they have their lives changed, their lives reversed. Through an encounter with Jesus, the physical, economic, political, and religious aspects of their lives are reversed, very much along the lines of the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. But back in Sunday school, when I heard the story of the 10 lepers, that's not what I got from the story. You know, I was pretty little, so I missed this whole reversal aspect. But I do know that I understood that Jesus had done something good. He had taken away the leper's spots. Without getting too medical here, I understood that the spots on their skin were the big problem. The spots were the reason for their suffering. It was because of the spots that they were sick, because of the spots they had to live outside the village, because of the spots that they were isolated and no one could visit them. And it was because Jesus took away their spots, healed their skin, that their situation was completely reversed. Of course, what confused me was that, I thought the spots were good. A small verbal miscue had led me down a highly original interpretive path. So, lepers and leopards. It's not that different, folks. And as a young boy, I knew and had read a little bit about leopards in books and stuff like that, and I knew that leopards had spots, and we're going to set aside those of us who are interested in National Geographic and know that there are a subspecies of leopards that don't. Spots are one of leopards' defining features, distinctive black spots on their light-colored bodies. Lepers, on the other hand, now you don't find them very much in Toronto, with leprosy being a tropical skin disease. And, you just don't see it like you do with chicken pox and the flu and the common cold. So I was just stumped about why Jesus would take away the leopard spots. And I don't remember how I explained all of this to my family, but it's the type of mistake that if you have an older sibling, they're never going to let you forget that one. And every time you read Luke chapter 17, or really any time you talk about a leper in the gospel, they're just going to remind you about this time when you forgot or made the mistake of lepers and leopards. But here in this season of creation, when we turn our focus on the beauty of the created world, it strikes me that some of us need our spots, and some of us don't. And thankfully, Jesus knows which of us do and which of us don't. And I really do believe that we are being challenged in our current day to understand that God's vision of justice, wellness, and belonging is not just for all humanity, but for all creation. In this season, when we give thanks for the harvest, thanks for the abundance of food, and thanks for the blessings of the material world, the season of creation invites us to work for the healing of creation, just as Jesus works for our healing. Are we seeing, hearing, and receiving the messages of our created world that sustains our life? Are we taking care of our friends with spots? We don't have leopards in Ontario, but what about the spotted salamander or the spotted owl? The northern flicker just might be the most beautiful bird I have ever seen. Yellow under wings, a red handlebar mustache, and spots all over its body. We have a lot of spotted friends, folks. And I think the season of creation is inviting us to reverse our actions and our practices with the created world, to see the world as Jesus sees us in the gospel, and to begin to heal as Jesus heals us. In the gospel, we see Jesus reversing the situations of those he encounters, often someone who is incredibly marginalized, isolated, and even condemned because of their condition. We can think of Jesus' encounter with these lepers here, or his encounter with the penitent criminal on the cross. All the healing stories in the gospel point us towards Jesus' mission to offer a transformative and complete healing that seemed entirely impossible. Whether illness, poverty, criminality, it seems that walking with Jesus provides an all-encompassing healing that reflects God's vision of justice, wellness, and belonging. The season of creation invites us to expand that vision of healing to encompass justice, wellness, and belonging for all of those with spots and without. Encountering Jesus' healing in our own lives will help us as we work towards this version of healing in our world. Amen.